Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Introduction to Secure Object Storage webinar. My name is John McBride, and before we get started, I would like to review a few housekeeping notes. To avoid any interruptions during the broadcast, all audience members' phone lines are on mute, and our session today will include a live Q&A at the end of the session, and you may submit your questions at any time during the presentation using the Q&A panel located on your screen. Finally, we will email a link to the recording playback to all the attendees on today's broadcast within the next few business days. So at this time, I'd like to introduce myself and our co-presenter for today's webinar. And as I mentioned, my name is John McBride. I'm the Vice President of Product here at GreenCloud. Some of the things that our team works on here is sales engineering, product management, and also product development. And so our goal is obviously to make sure that the products that we have in our portfolio are something that we can bring to our partners as well as our VARs to make them successful. And today we get to talk about a new solution that we're bringing to market. And joining me today is John Tor, the Chief Marketing Officer from Cloudian. And we're going to go through some of the storage challenges as well as some of the new reoccurring revenue streams that this product will be able to help you with your end customers. John?
Hey, thank you very much, John. And it's a real pleasure to be with you today and to join GreenCloud on this to talk about this really exciting topic, which is enterprise object storage and how it can help your customers solve their storage problems. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the first slide, John.
Absolutely.
So Cloudian is a provider of S3 compatible object storage. And what that means is that we provide storage systems and software that provide storage that uses the S3 API. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the S3 API is and why that's so important. From your standpoint, what this means is you have a limitlessly scalable storage pool that you can offer your services on top of. And we'll talk a little bit about the different kinds of services you can offer in that storage pool to help you build revenue streams quickly and easily and compete in the storage market and make money. And then lastly, we'll talk about ransomware protection, because this is a topic that's really important to everyone right now, is how do I protect my customers' data from ransomware? We're all very aware of the ransomware threat. Even some of the best prepared, best heeled organizations get hit with this scourge, but you have a way to help your customers to protect their data that will really set you apart in the marketplace. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So John, next slide, please. So just to get it started, yeah, I think it helps to get a little bit of grounding in terms of what is object storage, and particularly what is S3 compatible object storage. This is storage for unstructured data. So think of it as file storage, image storage, document storage. It works just like file storage. It's just that it speaks a different language. It speaks the S3 API. And who uses this type of storage? Well, this storage is used by everybody every day. The service we're on right now, Zoom, uses object storage. Matter of fact, they use Cloudian object storage. Services like Netflix, AWS, Facebook, Spotify, Amazon Prime, these are all built on object storage. It truly is, the storage infrastructure of the cloud. So when your customers are asking you, what is this? Why do I need it? It's obvious that, if you're in the cloud, you're using large scale data. It's something that everyone has already moved over to. Next slide, John. Now, the S3 API sounds a little bit exotic to some people, but it's just a storage language. It's a way of speaking to storage, just like you would talk to file storage using a file protocol. You talk to this type of storage using the S3 API. It's used in lots of different kinds of data management applications, from backup to big data to storage management to file management. There's many, many different applications out there that use S3 within, essentially shrink-wrapped enterprise software. Also, any of your customers who are writing data inside of AWS using that service would be using object storage as a backend. So it's going to be familiar to customers that are using any of these enterprise apps or anybody that's operating in AWS. Cloudian has been offering S3 compatible storage from our start. We were founded in 2011. So we've been doing this for over 9 years now. And we are built entirely on the S3 API. The reason why that's important to your customer is that we provide the highest level of compatibility with the S3 API of any object storage provider out there. We're the only one that was built on the S3 API from the start. There's no gateway involved in our architecture. There's no translation layer. S3 API is built right into what we do. So we're built to be compatible with the S3 API. When Amazon makes a change in the S3 API, we're right on top of it, mirroring the same thing. So your customers can be confident that their applications will work in our environment, and that they can write applications in our environment and know that they're going to be fully S3 compliant. So that's one thing that's interesting about the environment. Next slide, John. The other thing that's really important to you as a storage consumer and your customers is data durability. Am I getting the highest level of data durability? And that's another thing that gets built into our storage environment right from the start. We use a technology called erasure coding, which means that you can have the data is striped across multiple storage devices, and you can have failures on multiple devices and still have full access to the data. In addition, we have replication built in, so the data can be replicated across sites or across devices. And in fact, Green Cloud is using both of these technologies to ensure that your data is as secure as it can possibly be. There's no probability of data loss in this environment with a number of levels of redundancy that are built in. Next slide, John. And then all of this has led to a great honor for us in that we are the most highly rated object storage on Gartner Peer Insights in terms of the user rating, in terms of the number of reviews, in terms of the percent that would recommend Cloudian. We've earned the highest level of achievement in all of those categories and earned the Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice Award for 2020. This is a peer-driven, by your peers, by the folks that actually use our product, who have come to Gartner and said, this is a fantastic product, it works for us, and let me tell you why. So we're really proud of that. Let me talk a little bit about how object storage is used. So that'd be the next slide, John. There's many, many different use cases, as you can imagine. It is the standard storage type of the cloud. So pretty much anything you can think of that could potentially run in the cloud or on-prem using cloud as storage is built to use S3 storage types. So obviously, from your perspective, offering storage as a service is really where it's at. And this is a multi-tenancy environment, meaning you can have individual namespaces for different clients. They will have no access to anyone else's data. It's like they've got their own storage system complete with their own namespace. And we can offer quality of service controls on top of that. So they get a great quality service, they get great security. Beyond that, though, there's many different types of applications you can run in this environment. Most common thing from your standpoint as a service provider is backup as a service. A very common use case for object storage where the data is backed up from an on-prem environment into the cloud, or potentially running a server in your environment and going into the cloud. It can really be configured in multiple different ways, but whether you're using Commvault or Veeam or Rubrik or Veritas, whatever your backup preference is, they all offer S3 compatibility built in. And several of these offer an important addition, which is ransomware protection as well. And we'll talk about that in a second, but all of them offer S3 compatibility. A few of them offer ransomware protection built in as well. And that's really, really important for what you can offer your customers and how you can build revenue streams very quickly. Also, media and entertainment. This is a great storage environment for media files because of the size. It's limitlessly scalable, and also because of the streaming capability. Object storage is a parallel processing environment, so it's great for streaming. You can get very high performance in a streaming environment. Virtually every media asset device out there works with object storage, and many of the body cam and video surveillance applications do as well. So whatever type of video you're involved with, there's usually an S3 compatible connector in there. Other examples of great use cases include big data. Splunk and Hadoop, both are built for object storage. Matter of fact, Splunk has a really interesting data tiering mechanism. You can help your customers save money in their Splunk infrastructure by tiering old and cold data. In the case of Splunk, that would be data from the indexers. Those warm buckets can be tiered off to object storage in the cloud to save money. They're still completely accessible by the Splunk environment. Next slide, John. Some other examples of use cases, file sync and share. You can offer your customers a Dropbox-like environment that is secure. It's not going out into the public cloud, it's going into the green cloud environment, but they can securely share files. As a matter of fact, they can even scan those files for personally identifiable information to make sure that nothing is being shared that shouldn't be shared as part of the overall sharing process. So it's a really interesting approach to Dropbox-like services that's far more secure and offers some features that you don't get in the Dropbox environment. Again, something you can offer to your customers. Lastly is not NAS file tiering. If you've got customers who are using NetApp, EMC as their file storage devices, one thing you may be interested in is that typically 60% of the data in those environments hasn't been accessed in the last year. If they want to free up capacity, they can take that 60% of data, they can tier it using your service and move that data into the cloud. It's still completely accessible, but it's not consuming that very expensive space on those NetApp or EMC file storage devices. So it's a way of getting capacity freed up without having to do any new capital investment. And of course, in today's environment, that ability to get capacity without any additional capital cost is really important. And then finally, hybrid cloud. This is a subject a lot of people are interested in. We make it very easy to keep data in an on-prem environment and keep a copy in the cloud or tier data off to the cloud. So you have old and cold data in the cloud, fresh data on-prem. Either way, whether you're replicating for DR or you're simply trying to get more capacity, we make it very easy to set up a hybrid cloud environment as well. So you can see that, when you think about this as being cloud storage, that sort of opens your mind to all the possibilities. You saw all those different applications I talked about up front. You think about the variety of those, that's reflected in the types of use cases that you can offer to your customers and how you can make money, selling object storage as a service. Next slide, John. And then, of course, this is a subject which is really important, which is ransomware. And the amazing thing about ransomware is this is an equal opportunity scourge. It hits everybody, regardless of how well prepared they are. And the reason is because they've got so many different points of entry into the organization, so many different ways of getting in. And frankly, the most common entry point, emails, is of course the weakest point in many organizations. Phishing emails have gotten super sophisticated, very convincing, and it's getting into organizations which have been well trained, people that really know what they're doing. They can still get easily fooled. And what that means is that ransomware is something that all of your customers and their customers are subject to. And you can help them prepare in a way that is really, really bulletproof. And that means is object lock. So we go over to the next slide, John. Because the way ransomware works is it goes into the files and encrypts them, as you know. Which you also probably know is that the backup data is actually the first thing they target. So having a data backup itself, that alone is not sufficient to protect you from ransomware. To protect that data from ransomware, you need to protect it from being encrypted. So the backup data has to be made immutable. And that's what this feature called Object Lock does. It makes that backup data unchangeable. And when that backup data is unchangeable, even if ransomware gets in, which is going to happen eventually, it cannot impact the data. It can impact the data elsewhere in the organization, but because you have a backup copy that's been kept unencrypted, been kept secure, it makes that restore process so much easier and faster. And eliminates the possibility that you're going to have to pay a ransom. The beauty about this is a process which is managed by the backup software. So Veeam and Commvault currently have built-in mechanisms to manage object lock and to handle that issue of locking down the data, layering on some new backups, unlocking the original ones, deleting it. So it becomes a process that the Veeam and Commvault software manage. And what that means is you've always got data that's protected and you don't have to do any manual intervention. Now, if you're trying to do this with tape, you're obviously taking tapes out, putting them on a shelf, putting those tapes back in, overwriting them. It's a manual process. This is not manual anyway. It's all completely automated, managed by the Veeam and Commvault backup software. So it's really exciting because it's bulletproof protection that's very cost effective, can save your customers a fortune, and it's something you can offer as a service to help build your revenue streams with the most compelling value proposition there is, which of course is peace of mind. We all want to sleep better. Your customer's going to sleep better if he knows his data is protected from ransomware. And next slide, John. And lastly, I just want to mention, there's a lot of talk about Kubernetes. People are interested in containers, where this is going. Your customers are probably thinking about this. And the beauty of this is we have a Kubernetes connector, which makes it very easy to use this as a development environment and a production environment for containers applications. So if your customers are thinking in this direction, you've got an answer that says, don't worry, I've got you covered. You don't have to worry about doing anything special in terms of building a new storage environment or going in and doing anything specifically for containers, because this service will give you S3 compatible storage with an operator, which is just a plugin for Kubernetes that lets you access the storage and use it just as you would use any other cloud storage. So it's a very easy way of letting your customers think about the future while consuming the resources you're giving them today to help you make money and build new revenue streams. So John, with that, I'll let you talk about those revenue streams.
Thank you, John, very much. Very exciting about the different options and use cases that are out there. Traditionally, we were just solely working in the backup as a service space. So being able to go to our partners and VARs that have probably interacted with their end customers, but when they interacted with GreenCloud, we didn't have the perfect solution for them in the past. Some of the video offerings have been brought to us, and this is obviously something very exciting, and the light went on for us when we were working with you guys on some of the different opportunities that we could bring. And so that was great going through the different use cases, and hopefully that gets people thinking about that, opening up their Rolodexes and talking to the folks that they may have run into with those different use cases, but they may not have had the right solution for them, and now we do. One of the things with GreenCloud being, secure object storage versus some of our competitors or some of the hyperscalers that are out there is just like you guys do, we take a security first approach, and that really lends in with the object lock and how that's going to protect, but to make sure that security is paramount in these days and being able to protect their data is of utmost importance. One of the things that our partners and our VARs love about GreenCloud is our predictable pricing and billing structure. They can set up what their margins are going to be like, what they're going to go to market with and sell to their end customers. And there's no surprises with reads, writes, 90-day holds, or anything like that, ingress and egress charges. The price that you pay at the tier that you're at is the price you're going to be able to take to your customer month in, month out. One of the things that we really like to stress here is the support services that you get from GreenCloud. Our people really do make a difference. You can pick up the phone and you're going to have a technician that's going to work with you till resolution. They do a great job. They always go above and beyond. And as everybody that's on the phone can attest to, if they've never had to try to reach out to some of the hyperscalers, unless you have a higher end enterprise contract, that's not possible, right? There's a lot of advantages that you can get when you can actually collaborate and work with a live person. And that's one of the strong points we think with support services here at GreenCloud. And last but not least is that reoccurring revenue stream. you know, the use cases that you went through, cannot stress this enough, are different markets that we weren't traditionally in. So hopefully that spurred some thought there, putting together solutions to go after the biomedical, the state, local governments that have the body cams, all the physical security data out there, any of the entertainment field, and then all the different backup vendors that we currently don't use, but because it's an S3 object bucket, they can send that to us now. So those are all new revenue streams for the first three things that we mentioned that we think are going to be very attractive, and we're going to get a lot of pull-through with additional services. And a little bit about Green Cloud, that for the folks on the phone, that have worked with us, but if we have any new folks, new potential partners, is that we're an IaaS company at heart, right? We started with infrastructure as a service, and on top of that, on our VMware stack and our Cisco-powered UCS chassis, then we, on top of that, add additional services that were fast to market that we could deliver efficiently. We have disaster recovery as a service through Veeam. We also have it through Zerto. We have backup as a service through Veeam. And we also have desktops as a service through Horizon DaaS. Additionally, as we mentioned at the beginning of this segment on security, we have a full suite of managed security, all the way from managed firewalls all the way up to SIEM and SOC that you can purchase through us. I talked about our partnerships here, just on the products that we have, and we really like to stress that. And now we're going to have to put a big old Cloudian emblem on there as a partnership as well. We take compliance very seriously in our 6 different data centers. We go through a rigorous SOC 2 Type 2. As you can see there on the slide, we're located across the country to be able to give access to our partners and borrowers to be able to offer different locations to meet their customers' needs. So I will open it up to some of the questions that we have in the Q&A. Let me see. First question for you, John. Why are backup vendors using the S3 API for backup data rather than traditional file protocols?
Yeah, that's a good question because file has been around a lot longer, and what's happened in the past few years is really all of the backup guys have switched over to starting to really use S3 more and more as their language for talking to that backup target. And that's a change you've really seen in the last few years. And why is that? Well, obviously they want to enable backup to S3 compatible services such as Green Cloud. I mean, that's the first and foremost reason. But there's technical reasons as well, and that is that the S3 API was the API that was born in the era of the internet. So if you look at the other ways of talking to storage, file and block, those are all embedded long before the internet came on the scene. So they didn't really incorporate things like, I've got long distances to work with, right? I'm dealing with latencies. I've got secure connections which aren't always as stable as I would like. So I have to be able to deal with things where I could drop packets more frequently than just over a local Cat5 cable. Or I've got large amounts of data I'm trying to transfer. And obviously a large transfer works differently than a small transfer, particularly in an environment where that secure connection may not be as stable as you would ideally have. S3 was designed to accommodate all of those things. So it really was the storage protocol designed for internet communications over long distances with large amounts of data. It does things like, for example, if you're moving a large file and you have an interruption due to a line condition, you don't have to start over again. It just starts over with the last chunk, the last segment that got lost. It's not going to have to start that whole transfer over again. It incorporates things like parallel processing, so we can transfer data from multiple nodes at one time into your environment, as opposed to just doing it, sequentially through one node. So it's just got a lot of things built in that make large file transfers, that make movement over long distances, that make dealing with erratic communications very easy, very seamless, and none of those things were built into those earlier protocols. So it really is the ideal storage protocol for the web. when you're dealing with your customers as a cloud service and you want to deliver great service to them, this is the protocol to use.
Great. Looks like another question we have here is specifically about Object Lock. Will Object Lock protect data from all types of ransomware attacks?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because there's so many different types of ransomware coming up. It's just the guys are incredibly creative. I'm sorry to say, there's so many different binaries out there, but we have not found anything yet that can penetrate our environment. We take security extremely seriously. Because the data is encrypted, because the data is locked down at the storage level, the only way they could get in would be to somehow get into the device itself, and even that is locked down. We don't even if a rogue operator inside the data center decided he wanted to delete files or change files, that is prevented as well. Even if he has root access to the box, that's prevented. So as far as we know, the answer is yes. You're protected from all types of ransomware, regardless of the vector, regardless of the binaries they're using. We haven't found anything yet that can penetrate this, and we can't think of any way it could be done. So the answer is absolutely.
Great, John. It looks like I have a question here, came in over the Q&A as well, about Green Cloud's deployment. So Green Cloud is going to be deploying, it's very similar to the graphic that John had put up about erasure coding. So we're going to have it in an east and a west location. And at the single site, we're going to have erasure coding, an EC factor of 2. And then on the replication, the mirrored to the other side, either to the east or to the west, we'll do a replication factor of 3. So that, just looking at the current environment of some of the providers and competitors of our space, all of ours will be in the United States at the east and west locations. So none of it goes outside of the country if you need to mirror it or replicate it to another site, so you don't have to worry about any GDPR, any compliance issues there. It'll all be kept US based. And as John mentioned about how efficient and secure that erasure coding is, sometimes you want to get that added protection of geo redundancy, so we're going to be able to provide that at a west location. And then it looks like we have another question that came in here about do you have statistics, top accounts, or other sales/marketing info we can use when we are having discussions with our prospects? So so we worked heavily with Cloudian and Kendall, and our marketing department has created collateral that's on our partner portal. If there's something there that you need work with in regards of rebranding or things like that, you can reach out to our marketing folks, and they'll be glad to help there. And then if there's any data that you don't see, I'm sure that there's tons and tons of data on Cloudian site that we can work with them on to develop some Green Cloud collateral in specific. We have one more here. So one more, should we substitute object-based storage versus BAS moving forward? Is it deployed via Veeam and other backup consoles that are S3 compatible? So there is that option that John spoke to. Obviously, there's the capacity tier within Veeam that will be able to connect straight into the S3 bucket. That's going to be, the option that you have to evaluate for that, because that data is going to be a little bit, less frequently accessed as well. And then there's different things that we'll be able to offer on our secure BAS product that we'll be deploying as well. So it's sort of something that you probably want to call in and speak with, your sales account manager. We can get on the phone with one of our solution architects, product architects, or sales engineers to sort of walk through the use case and look at the amounts of data that you're needing to store and back up, and then just sort of walk through the finer details of the deployment. All great questions here. Well, we're a little bit over our time. We thank everyone for joining. A great participation, and we always love getting all these questions. But please feel free to reach out to your account managers. They can get in touch with the product management team, like I said, the sales engineering folks and product architects, and we can go into a little bit more in-depth discussion. And if you need any help with any marketing docs, we can reach out to the marketing department. And with that, we'll wrap things up. Just a reminder that the recording will be emailed to you within a few business days. And on behalf of myself and John and the Cloudian team, I'd like to thank you for attending our broadcast. And everyone have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.